Joining us now, Ben Tribbett, noted national Democratic consultant and analyst. You can follow him at Not Larry Sabato. And he's been on a roll. Last time out, he predicted that the House Democrats would gain 17 seats in the House. Everybody laughed at him. And he said that Ralph Northam would win by 10. He won by 10. Said they'd gain 17 seats. I think they won 17 seats. He was nailed that. And backed by popular demand, as always. Also, a Washington Caps fan. And I know he died a slow death in that overtime defeat the other night. And I was thinking about him during that game. I'm not really a hockey fan, but I know Ben is. I was like, poor Ben suffering in that overtime defeat, and the Caps are out. And then it's over. No more hockey for Caps, right? Like, I'm a Rockets fan. They got beat at home without Kevin Durant and depressed over it. But then all these games are on Sunday. I could care less. Like, I'm almost in denial over it. Here he is now, Ben Tribbett. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good, John. I was just calling to RSVP for the Colonial Down Suite.
You're in, buddy. You got it.
In.
It's August 10th. I'm going to put your name on that list. You're going to have a lot of fun, man. It's a great track and beautiful turf course under the lights. It opens up for live racing August 8th. We have a suite on August 10th. Ben's going to be there. I'm going to put you on that list. And, Ben, we're going to have a good time. Now, let's go to all of these races. I'm going to start big, drill down to Virginia. Let's start big. Joe Biden, all of a sudden, he looks unstoppable. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he's unstoppable, but he has a lot of support. I mean, people don't always remember in Democratic primaries that the electorate is old. And, you know, there's this imaginary Democratic primary that happens with all these activists that you see online, and that's not the real primary. The real primary is with a lot of older voters that very much like Joe Biden and like the fact that he's been around a long time. So I don't think it's insurmountable for the other candidates, but I think that he's obviously become the preeminent front runner by far.
Doesn't the fact that, well, there's two things about the rules. Three things. Number one, for the Democrats nationally, there's no super delegates until you get to the second round, if there is one, if there's not a clear nominee. That's different. Second thing is there's no winner take all, right? So all these primaries are proportional. And then the third thing is a lot of the states have early voting. So you can't just campaign in Iowa and hope things work out, because the day the Iowa caucuses start, early voting starts in all these other states. How does that affect it?
Yeah, I think the calendar is tight. You know, in terms of early voting, I don't think that anyone's going to leave Iowa for early voting, but it's certainly going to make it very complicated for someone in a crowded field to get the required delegates needed to win. Now, one of the things that will aid in that is that you have to get 15% of the vote in a state in order to get any delegates. And so a number of these candidates may not hit the 15% threshold. And then those percentage of the votes that are of candidates that don't hit the 15%, which could add up to be a substantial amount of delegates, are proportionally divided among the people that did. So say Joe Biden wins a state with 45% and Bernie gets 18% and the next closest is Kamala at 12%. Well, then it's only Joe and Bernie that are getting delegates. And because Joe got 73% of the vote comparatively to Bernie, he would get 73% of the delegates. So the field could actually be more complicated if it gets smaller before it gets larger.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, because we're up to 21 now, and so if you figure a few of these candidates will shave off a few percent, it's actually going to help get more delegates to the person who won the state.
So so actually, what you're saying, the burgeoning field is going to help the winner because they're going to get more delegates, right? So that's going to favor Biden in a lot of these states. Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right, Ben, any prediction right now? Where do you see this headed?
I'm not ready for a prediction yet. I mean, I think that what you saw with Pete Buttigieg was that it only took one appearance on cable news to skyrocket him. When we have these debates, that's going to be an opportunity for everyone. I don't think that Joe Biden is insurmountable for these other candidates, especially for candidates like Kamala or Elizabeth Warren. But I do think he's going to stay the front runner all summer.
What about Bernie Sanders?
I think Bernie Sanders is already in sort of a free fall, and I think he's getting pinched from a bunch of different sides, and I don't think that he's going to resurrect himself and be the candidate that he was last time.
Who wins Iowa?
Too early.
All right, Ben, I like that. All right, let's get to Virginia, where I know you're involved in a lot of these races. Let's start with the Dem side, and let's get to my favorite race on the Democratic side. As you know, I'm covering it in depth because it's too much fun, Ben, for one man to have, and that is Senate District 16, Petersburg. The incumbent and godfatherette, Roz Dance, a spirited challenge by former House of Delegates member Joe Morrissey. I'm predicting Joe wins this race right now, hands down. What say you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very competitive. John, to be honest, I'm not down there. I'm much more in tune with some of the Nova races. Not as in tune with what's happening in that primary in Petersburg. But we know that Joe is well liked and well regarded in Richmond. We know he's well liked and well regarded in Petersburg. And I think this is going to be a very competitive primary.
Okay, so you think it's going to be close, but no cigar or no prediction. Okay, let's get to Northern Virginia, where there's two major incumbents being challenged there: Dick Saslaw and Barbara Favola. Break down those two races for us.
I think Saslaw and Favola have pretty wide leads at this point. The challengers have not really consolidated even a anti-Saslaw or anti-Favola vote yet. The Favola challenger, there was an article in the Washington Post this weekend, doesn't even seem to sort of want to be to Barbara's left, which is where obviously a Democratic primary challenge would come from. She's sort of just hanging out on some ethical issues, but she hasn't communicated them. I think this is a real uphill fight for her unless she starts to communicate with voters a very clear message. The same thing's happening actually in Alfonso Lopez's primary in Arlington, where there was all this noise last year about Alfonso's work with ICE and all the negatives about him. His opponent hasn't used or raised them. And so this primary has basically been Alfonso in a walk because his opponent isn't raising any of the issues that would cause people to want to vote out an incumbent. And my gosh, there's certainly a lot of those with Alfonso Lopez. But a campaign is about, what the challenger brings up. And if the challenger doesn't raise those issues, Alfonso's going to win in a landslide. And to date, he hasn't. And I think he's on track to win overwhelmingly.
No question about it. And I agree with you. I think Saslaw and Favola win as well. And I'm not sure what Favola's opponent is doing. You would think she would attack her on the left or position herself that way, that being Nicole Merline. She's not done that. I mean, she's a policy director for a trade association. So, you look at some of these campaigns and you think, okay, they want a future somewhere else and they don't want to aggravate, perhaps the Democratic leadership. I guess that's it. Let's get to District 13.
I think it's also, John, like some of these candidates just don't really understand yet. I mean, I actually ran into Nicole this weekend at the Arlington Blue Victory dinner, and I was sitting at Patrick Hope's table. And when I came in, Nicole Merline came up to me and she said, "It's so good. I didn't know you came to events in Arlington." She said, "So good to see you." And I'm like, "What do you mean I don't come? I've been to this dinner for like the last 20 years, almost every year." and I just like sort of like, wow, like I think in some cases, especially with some of the young Democrats, they think that the political world started when they got involved in politics, and it made me wonder too when I walked away. I was thinking, does she not know that I've been involved in quite a number of Arlington campaigns pretty recently? It was really weird. So I just think she's a really nice person, very smart, but I don't think that I just don't think she's clued into what's going on.
You know, it's so interesting. You look at the Northern Virginia contingent of Senate Democrats, and I find this fascinating. And let me just, there are 5 of them, right? Scott Surville, Janet Howell, Dick Saslaw, David Marston, and Barbara Favola, right? So you got 5 of them. All of them are basically old style, pro-business, pro-consumer Democrats that don't get caught up in a lot of the far left stuff. Any of them. I mean, they're all tied into the chamber. They're all for growth. They're all for business investment, and they've all been successful. That, by the way, as you pointed out, the ones that have been advertising with me, it's odd that none of them have a primary challenge. Just throw that out there. Chap Peterson, obviously, but they're part of the old school. They're part of the old school Democratic coalition in Northern Virginia that wants jobs and economic growth. And even though a couple of them are being attacked from the left, there's just zero traction. Why is that?
Well, I think that is Northern Virginia too. I mean, that's the electorate. It is a older, moderate electorate. You see when Northern Virginia goes blue in a big way, like they did in the Trump election or since Trump got elected, it's generally in reaction to the Republican candidate versus any sort of love for the Democratic candidate. You know, I mean, Terry McAuliffe did an overwhelming victory in 2013 in Northern Virginia over Ken Cuccinelli. Well, that was a reaction to Cuccinelli.
Right.
Hillary Clinton wins overwhelmingly in 2016. That's a reaction to Trump. And then Gillespie, who tried to match more closely, Northern Virginia, it really got caught up in the anti-Trump wave in 2017.
Yeah, got trounced.
So, and so that's just, and same thing for Corey Stewart. So Northern Virginia tends to react to but at its core, Northern Virginia is full of independent, moderate voters that really want to vote for both sides. It's just very difficult in this modern Republican Party for independent voters that are well-educated to gravitate to the Republican Party.
All right, let's get to Manassas, House District number 50. Delegate Lee Carter, I call him #CommieLee, a member of the CCCP. He's being challenged by Manassas City Councilman Mark Wolf, a former Republican who went to the Dems in 2016 because he hates Trump. Now, I called Mark Wolf up. He answers the phone and I identify myself, and I said, hey, I'd love to talk to you. And he says, I can't talk to you, Fredericks. And he hung up. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Whatever, dude. But what is up? What is up with that race?
I mean, from what I can tell, early on, it seemed like Wolf was going to pull in all this support and had a real legitimate chance to beat Carter. It doesn't look like that's materialized. And so, this will become a battle for, turnout in a very low turnout June primary. But you've got to favor the incumbent when the challenger can't seem to get his act together. I'm not sure how you would, not favor the incumbent in a prediction. So I got to go with Lee Carter right now.
Any upsets on the horizon in either side primaries?
In the legislative primaries, I don't think so.
Really? You think it's just going to go basically incumbents are going to win? What about in the Democratic Senate primary in Richmond? Debbie Rodman getting in that race, and then you've got another House member, Cheryl Turpin, getting in the race for the Frank Wagner seat. Joe Morrissey says that these people were basically, these delegates were sanctioned by the Democratic elite and told to run in these jobs because they want to select the nominees. How do you react to that?
I mean, I think that's generally right. I mean, Rodman is going to probably overwhelmingly win in Henrico for the nomination. I think that's set up for her. In Virginia Beach, I'm not sure about the Turpin race. I think that Turpin's up against a Navy veteran who is very well equipped, Kim Howard. Mm-hmm. And Kim was a strong candidate to begin with before Turpin ever got in the race. And so that one, I have a lot of question marks to how that one will play out. But I think Rodman will win pretty overwhelmingly for the primary in June for the Henrico seat.
Well, I actually hope that Turpin wins the race. I guess that's the 8th or the 7th. I think that's the 7th. I hope Turpin wins because I think Weems is going to be the nominee on the Republican side, and I don't think Weems can beat Howard, but I think Cheryl Turpin is just really too liberal for that. Is just not that's a swing district, Ben. It's just not a liberal progressive district, and Turpin is. I think Howard would be a much tougher candidate. So as a partisan for Weems, I'm hoping that Turpin wins that seat. Let's get to the dinner. It used to be called the Jefferson Jackson dinner for the Democrats. They changed the name of it, right, to the Victory Dinner or something. So Joseph Fairfax tries to buy a table. They kick him out. Mark Herring was thinking about buying a table, but he declined, and the governor's not going to be there. So you've got this gala dinner on June 15th in Richmond. By the way, I'm going to be there live. And the three guys.
What was the reason Mark Herring declined?
I don't know. He doesn't have a table. That's what I heard. So no tables from the governor, the lieutenant governor. Actually, the lieutenant governor wanted a table. They kicked him out. And then, of course, the governor is in hiding, so he doesn't have a table either. I mean, how do you have a dinner when the three top people, your statewide office holders, can't even attend?
Well, I mean, didn't VA Political Meme offer to have Justin sit at his table?
Yes.
I think Justin should take him up on that offer, don't you?
I did, yes. I think he should go. I mean,
yeah, I think you should sit with VA Political Meme, and I think John, you should be at that table too.
Well, I'm going to be there live, so I'm going to be doing a live radio show during it. So I'm going to have everybody on. We always have a lot of fun. But yes, I will definitely sit at that table, and but I agree with you because I think if Fairfax says I'm innocent, I did nothing, and he tries to buy a table and they reject him, and somebody else invites him. I would go if I was him. What do you have to hide?
Yeah, and the party said that he's welcome to attend on someone else's ticket. Look, I support the party's rejection of Fairfax buying a table completely and 100%. I actually haven't been to this dinner in a number of years and thinking about going this year because the party took a strong stance on this. Again, Justin can show up as an individual with someone else's ticket, but the party absolutely can decide who it allows to donate to the party. Mm-hmm. And I do not think that someone who has had multiple credible allegations of sexual assault should be purchasing a table at the party dinner. I think it sends a completely terrible message to women across the state. And I support what the party did there 100%. A lot of credit for Susan Swecker to have the guts to do that, by the way, because that's not an easy thing to not only have done what she did in the winter, when these things were happening, not all of which I agreed with, but then to come out and deny a sitting lieutenant governor the opportunity to even purchase a table at the dinner is bold, and she's absolutely right. And so I support her 100%. So that's where I am on it.
Well, Susan Swecker has certainly shown bold leadership throughout her tenure, no question about it. You might not agree with every decision she makes, but she's decisive and she's tough. And I think she's one of the reasons why Democrats have been so successful under her leadership. Ben, we're out of time. John Fredericks Radio Network. Following me, though, on WJFN 100.5 FM, Chris Saxman and The Chris Saxman Show, Virginia Free. Want to tune that in. If you're not in the listening area, then go to WJFNradio.com. We want to thank @NotLarrySabato. Follow him on Twitter, Ben Tribbett, for being with us. By the way, last time Ben was at the Virginia Annual Democratic Dinner was with me, 2014. John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.